This show furnished by Karl Gerber and Employment Lawyers Group.
I'm a lawyer and I know it.
Talk Radio 790 KABC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber, and I'm a real lawyer. Oh, wait a minute. There's somebody who just called in, and it says that it's Cindy D, and she's going to save this show from peril.
Hi. I wanted to give you an update on my employment situation.
Oh, yeah, I was sort of wondering. Last week I heard from Slick Willie's widow, Tricked Out Billy, that you might no longer be at Underground Operators doing that whole phone sex thing anymore.
Yeah, it became too much. I needed a breather from the whole phone sex job where Delicious Divine, who I thought was my friend, maybe only hired me back because she wanted to use all the calls I did. Actually, mostly the voyeur calls, to do the whole Cindy D sex robot thing Remus Helms made. And then those awful product liability lawsuits with the men getting stuck in that sex robot that doesn't even really look like me. And all the private parts were wrong. Like, duh, you can't believe everything a woman on a phone sex call says about herself.
Well, I rarely believe much of anything an adverse witness testifies to.
It's the same with a phone sex call.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes, if the phone sex operator feels sexy, it's going to be a better call.
Oh, yeah, I recall reading that somewhere.
That might have been the Harvard study. No, I think it was a Helms Foundation study on the satisfaction of landline phone sex calls. 2017, Dr. Dingo Dardashtian, published in the Harvard Journal of Health and Human Rights, Volume 41, pages 368 to 492.
Yeah, I don't think that's where I read that interesting fact.
As I said, I wanted to update you on my employment situation. I found a different kind of job.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you're out of the sex business, Cindy D.
After that collarbone workers' compensation case I had way back over at the Judaica bookstore, and then the bed injury in the shower over at the Lucky 7 Tarzana when it was being remodeled, there's some stuff I'm just not up to, maybe afraid to do. I wanted to ask you, do you think employers won't hire me because of those work injury cases?
Well, the collarbone thing was a long time ago. It was a real injury. I guess that shower injury we should explain to the listeners. We don't want them thinking you were working at the neuro massage clinic at the time of the shower injury.
But I was.
Oh, true, but you were an outside contractor.
Yes, just like at Underground Operators.
Well, the difference is that the neuromassage clinic Nizuki owns, the world-famous neuromassage nurse who is presently dating Remus Helms, the most important man of Sun Valley, California. Well, you were hired to lay a mortar bed in a shower they were constructing. You worked for a third-party contractor. You weren't engaged in the bread and butter, buns and cream, chest and orifice work of the company.
Oh, right. I wasn't a production worker doing none of those 10 to 16 neuro massages a day on a busy day. I think most days there are pretty busy after all the coverage of the Lucky 7 on this show and its remodel.
As I understand things, they never really finished. People finished over there, but not the remodel. They left the thin painter's plastic up between the massage rooms.
I haven't been back there too much since my injury there.
But you have been back there, Cindy D, have you not?
1 month, Cemex forgot to pay the gas bill. It was due the next day. I drove over to the Lucky 7 Tarzana, actually in Reseda, and paid the gas bill with a check. I said hi to Nizuki and found out Izuki was recovering from an STD she suffered during a live neuromassage training over in one of those ballrooms around the Burbank airport. And Dumas's office was moved into the back parking lot because 2 girls were sleeping in that room when it wasn't being used for VIP services. You probably know it's big enough in there for 2 girls to lay down at once.
You know, you should be careful about paying a gas bill at a neuromassage clinic. I mean, look what happened when Remus Helms went in and he wasn't prepared.
Yeah, Hanina Orchid Holmes is a trip. She fired up those candles and got Myron Alfombra, pronounced Matting, but spilled Eminem's goons at his ever-growing Berber toupee factory, where the toupees are actually nylon. Those goons got all distracted by the candles that simulate the human sexual experience. And the Cindy D robot disintegrated a lot of that ever-growing Berber that is actually nylon.
Oh, man, that's pretty heavy. The listeners should know this is the sort of a continuing series here where Remus Helms provides me super weird guests week after week because he sponsors a show, and we're on the episode 74.
I'd really advise everybody to go to the Karl Gerber with a K channel on YouTube and listen to the episodes involving Cindy D. I saw on Friday that the number of views are up 96% in the last 28 days, and the amount of time people listen is 70% in the last 28 days.
Those numbers are a lot higher tonight on Sunday, people. It's pretty cool. The KABC is where this show started, but it seems this show will be moving on to some other stations, too, in other cities. If you've been listening since episode 4, when Cindy D first came on this show, you can tell people you've listened to this phenomena grow and grow and grow, sort of like an ever-growing Berber toupee that is actually nylon.
Wow, I was here when it all started.
Well, now that we've got all caught up, can you get to your job update?
Well, I wasn't too sure I'd be able to get a job in a legitimate place with everybody all knowing me as the most popular English-speaking phone sex operator who's so tiny men get stuck. I decided to use a different name when I applied for work.
Why? Since your last name is never spelled nor pronounced the same each time it's written or uttered. I mean, you could have just taken a variation of Dukakudakinzi.
Dukoshi, Kansas?
Dookie Koshi, Kansas?
Dukulu Shenanigans.
Dookie Hulu Shenanigans? That's how it's pronounced?
No, my last name is Dookie Cuddle Kansas.
Okay, at any rate, did you use your real name when applying for work?
No, I said I was Masha Lubov.
Why not just Mistress Luboff?
I thought that would be weird. Also, I am a married woman. You know, Masha is like Mary in Russian.
Once you got this job, did you talk like Mistress Luboff?
Well, sometimes.
We're talking to Cindy D, the most famous landline sex operator who speaks English in the whole world, and she's taken another job. I don't know what the public is going to do, and we're going to find out more about that when we come back, and I don't know what job it is. I hope she's not working for a neuromassage clinic on the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC.
Rams and Chargers to LA. Broncos, Panthers slipped away. Minnesota.
Since 1993, the Employment Lawyers Group has been a consistent force in fighting for the rights of California employees. They've represented thousands of employees in cases in which they've lost their jobs, been sexually harassed, discriminated against at work, or owed wages individually or as a group such as a class action. The Employment Lawyers Group has maintained a high win rate and a serious record before the California courts. Please call 877-525-0700 for an experienced work lawyer. That's 877-525-0700. They have call takers standing by. Online, research the firm at worklawyerca.com. They have offices throughout Southern California. If you hire the Employment Lawyers Group, your legal problem becomes theirs to solve.
I'm a lawyer and I know it.
Talk Radio 790 KABC. I'm a lawyer and I know it too. I'm Karl Gerber, workplace lawyer, a real workplace lawyer. And I've got Cindy D on the line. And as I understand things, a phone sex call with Cindy D is all smoking when she does some babbling on that phone.
Yes, it is.
Cindy D, what exactly was this new job you got?
Well, I thought I'd be a good fit. Actually, I am a good fit. The job involved a lot of telephone answering.
Was this a legitimate company?
If you can believe it, I got a job with a major league.
Baseball?
The NFL.
Wow, the NFL hired somebody named Masha Lubov, whose real name is Cindy Duka Kashahuna Hulu.
Duty Kunikinzi.
Are you still working there at this NFL?
Sort of.
Fuss the employment issue?
Not really.
Well, since we're on to week 2 of the professional football season, and KABC is such a big football station, broadcasting the USC game, which takes up a third of a Saturday, maybe we could get some inside information on the NFL out of Cindy D.
Okay, so I started there in August. You might find this pretty interesting. I got a job in their legal department.
Oh, that's great. I knew a dad from one of my son's schools who was a lawyer in that department, and then he got another dad who was a lawyer, a job in that department, and then he left the school, and I was so glad because I didn't want to be next.
That's strange. I thought I'd be next.
For what?
Getting fired?
Are you still working at the NFL?
I sort of decided I didn't want to be associated with what they stand for at the NFL.
Jeez, that's pretty harsh. I mean, what is it, the head injuries?
There's a lot of assault and battery in the league, but that's not all.
What else happened? This is great.
As I said, I was a receptionist for one part of the legal department. There's more legal department there than I'd say there are phone sex operators left in North America. Can you believe that?
Yes.
They threw me right in.
Oh, the football field?
They gave me the busiest desk in the whole league.
Well, I wouldn't think the legal department was.
It was. They heard me on the phone the first day I was on the currency desk. It was busy and all, but not like the desk in the legal department they sent me over to my second day.
I'm glad you've been all able to transition out of the horrible phone sex business.
To tell you the truth, Mr. Gerber, there's a lot of that going on at the league.
The NFL?
Oh, yeah.
Well, still, it's quite a few steps above underground operators.
True. My offices were on the 5th floor.
See, you've moved up from the basement to the 5th floor. Who knows what's next?
I wasn't sure where I could land a job with all the press that's come to me from this show, the sex robots, the over 1 billion in phone sex calls I've done, even that 2-girl muscular dystrophy show with Delicious Divine, when we raised the roof of the coffers faster than superglue dries.
Well, I guess there was a bit of a gap on your resume between your work at the legitimate call center that went out of business before you got into the phone sex business and then the NFL. Well, we heard about this long ago in one of the first episodes of this show.
All these calls came in about felonies, misdemeanors, lots of infractions, tickets, too.
Wow. I didn't realize there was so much of that at the NFL.
They're pros, but they do get popped every now and then.
Sort of gives the league a bad name.
Have you heard of, I think they call them public prosecutors?
Prosecutors for the government prosecuting crimes?
Yeah, that's it. They called too.
Well, interesting.
I started thinking maybe I could help out more.
Oh, like get into helping some of the lawyers with what the legal assistants do? I always suspect that you weren't the airhead you were cracked up to be with that genius daughter and all those different things you said on the phone sex lines.
I didn't try to help with papers or anything like that, but I guess you could say I was helping with the legal work.
That's good. Maybe you can become a paralegal. What kind of stuff did you do?
Actually, I started doing phone sex with the prosecutors.
What?
It worked.
What worked?
They started softening on the players, reducing stuff down, while I got the prosecutors, well, not going down.
This all happened at a reception desk in the legal department?
Yeah. Where else was this supposed to happen? Remember, I wasn't so keen on working out of my bedroom as an independent contractor for that other phone sex company I auditioned for.
Well, I thought you were hired at the NFL to be a receptionist.
I was.
Well, then why were you doing phone sex calls with the prosecutors?
I thought I could help.
Cindy D, help with what?
Get the prosecutors on our side.
That's illegal. That's like bribing or influencing prosecutors with phone sex. That's like so sorry.
It is. I was just doing what I'm good at.
Well, it wasn't sorry on your part. I mean, you're a pro. Oh, not like that, but a pro phone sex operator. I meant the prosecutors risking their law licenses over a phone sex call was sorry. I mean, they didn't pay, did they?
Oh, no, I didn't ask for their credit cards or anything. I wasn't signed up with a merchant service company. But, Mr. Gerber, I don't like the way you're saying a phone sex call with me isn't worth a law license. Cindy D is the most popular English-speaking phone sex operator in the world.
I hate to ask, but what happened next?
Some charges got dropped entirely. A lot got reduced to misdemeanors.
That isn't what I meant. I meant, like, how did the job progress after you started bribing prosecutors with phone sex?
The phones got, really busy.
Well, that tends to happen in legal departments.
They any busier with, legal calls?
What kind of calls were making the line so busy over at your desk?
The players' lawyers started calling. A lot of the players called. They even got their buddies to call.
Well, I've heard a lot of players have posses that act on their behalf. I mean, that's an issue for a lawyer. We can't let third parties direct legal affairs of others who are competent adults.
A lot of those players are barely competent. But that's not why their buddies were calling.
Oh, I get it. These players can maybe best be reached in the criminal legal department because they're in so much trouble.
Well, that's sort of true. But the players' buddies, well, word spread that I was answering the phones.
Oh, no.
One day, the boss of this part of the legal department walked by. She's like, "What are you saying, Mrs. Lubov? Who are you talking to?" And I'm really quick. "Oh, dear Dick Weburn, you've got to hurry up. The big boss lady wants me." Well, that did it. He was done. He's into all that big boss lady kind of stuff.
Just to get this straight, the head of the legal department division you worked in over at the NFL walked in on you having a phone sex call with a district attorney involved in charging one of the players.
Players? Yeah, I think that guy's a player. That's what he got popped for. He said that his girlfriend hit him first and it was self-defense. The backstory is she found out he was cheating on her, dating a stripper who couldn't make it as a Nuru nurse over at the Lucky 7 Tarzana.
Oh, boy. This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I actually am a real workplace lawyer, and I'm hoping my phones go off the hook on Monday when you call me because you've been fired from your job and you don't know where else to turn. You don't have any income coming in anymore, and you don't know when you're going to get a job. So the number to call is 877-525-0700. I only represent employees. That's all I've done since 1993. If it's a real case of a breach of employment contract, you can call me at 877-525-0700. You know, that's not fair if the employer just stopped paying you for some reason. You want to get justice. You want to get paid. You got bills. I'm at 877-525-0700 during normal business hours. This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC. I want to hear more about Cindy D's debacle at the NFL when we get back.
Slipped away, Minnesota really blew it. Did concussions break Cam Newton?
Since 1993, the Employment Lawyers Group has been a results-oriented law firm whose goal is to get the client what they deserve. They've represented thousands of California employees who've lost their jobs, been sexually harassed, subjected to employment discrimination, or were owed wages on an individualized or group basis, such as a class action. They have a high rate of success. There are few situations involving employment law that they have not confronted. At the forefront of employee rights, they're often the first employee law firm to confront a new legal issue. For an experienced employment lawyer, call 877-525-0700. That's 877-525-0700. They have call takers standing by. Online, read more about the firm at employeelawca.com. They have offices throughout Southern California. Make your work problem theirs to solve.
I'm a lawyer and I know it.
Talk Radio 790 KABC. This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show, and I'm Karl Gerber, a real workplace lawyer, and I've got Cindy D, the most famous English-speaking phone sex operator who's now working for the NFL, and maybe she can get me a bobblehead from my dashboard. So,
Hi.
yeah, maybe. I didn't want to represent criminals like the ones I guess Cindy D's having to answer the phone lines for work, and I wanted to stay on the good side, not defending criminals or tortfeasing employers, and I don't think I'd want to help people like this player Cindy D is describing.
I know. I should have thought about that before I took a job over at the National Felony League.
That's funny. I've heard somewhere between 4% in one study, then 22 to 38% in another, saying the NFL players have either been arrested or convicted of some type of a crime. This week, I had a geologist on one of my job sites, and he told me he couldn't even watch football anymore because it was just a bunch of felons running around the ball field, and he kept thinking like, hey, that's the guy who got arrested for spousal abuse, and then over there, that's the guy who got 10 DUIs.
Actually, I have to make a correction. You can't be in the NFL if you aren't a convicted felon.
No way! Is that true?
Why do you think they call it the National Felony League?
Well, it's sort of a joke, like Dumas.
That guy is a joke of a lawyer. I mean, seriously, what kind of a lawyer has an office in the parking lot of a Nuru massage clinic in Reseda?
That's a good point. I don't know if the part of the building he sits in is in Tarzana or Reseda. I mean, it actually might be Tarzana. The clinic is not, though.
I'm pretty sure the parking lot is in Reseda.
Oh, you would know, Cindy D.
I'm trying to find out if I should go back to the NFL.
You know, you have to stop doing phone sex calls with prosecutors, players, buddies, whoever else.
That's not really the problem. I had a big meeting with the boss lady lawyer. She said she understood it might work. She said I was a real asset to the company. Me doing the phone sex calls when I answered the phone wasn't the problem.
Well, then what is the problem?
Cemex doesn't want me working there.
Well, he'd prefer you to work in a former bank vault in a boiler room with phone sex operators, psychics, and people who sometimes listen when there's a person on the other end of the line of someone calling in just to cry. And sometimes nobody at Underground Operators listens to those people cry. They just pay to cry.
Cemex is a great husband. He's a pillar of concrete, completely non-judgmental. He's not the problem. That's not the problem.
Well, then why doesn't he want you to work for the NFL anymore? I mean, oh, I know, all those hunky football players always around.
Not all of them are football players. Besides, Cemex knows I'd never be with another man. Well, in person at least. I can't make that vow about on the phone.
Right. This is the legal department. I guess there's the usual crowd of lawyers, office workers, and maybe paralegals there too.
Cemex found out what the league does, and he says it's criminal. I could maybe go to jail for answering their phones.
Oh, playing football isn't criminal. I mean, maybe a lot of head injuries, but it's certainly not criminal. It's consented to assault and battery. Only when it's not consented to is that a problem for assault and battery.
I don't know about playing football. I know about the National Felony League.
Well, then you know more than me about that.
To tell you the truth, I didn't even know it existed until I got the job there.
You've never heard of the NFL?
I had. I thought they were a football league.
They are.
No, they're the National Felony League. I guess the National Football League is something else, like how my name is never pronounced or spelled the same twice.
Oh, I swear that NFL stands for National Football League.
Mr. Gerber, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but I worked there.
Well,
I know.
Then you know best.
Yeah, it's a league of felons. They do stuff like money laundering, extortion. Well, extortion comes before money laundering. They've got DUIs, too. I think there are sex offenders. I don't really stand for that. Not Cemex either. He doesn't want me helping in their legal defenses.
Well, you mean to tell me that you had phone sex with a DA prosecuting a sex crime?
Oh, I'm sure I have, but not at the National Felony League. I was careful about what kind of charges I was trying to help. Petty stuff like driving without a license, a parole violation for hanging out in a pool hall. There was this one where they wanted to charge this guy with having a barbecue in Yosemite. That said, it wasn't authorized and it was going to be a felony. I helped get it reduced down to a misdemeanor status.
Wait a minute. I think you're offending our listeners claiming the NFL is just a league of felons. They've got guys who are just arrested, too, never even convicted. Guys charged with misdemeanors, too. Not all the players have felonies.
That's true, but you can't be in the National Felony League if you don't have a felony.
Okay, Cindy D, just to get this straight, we are talking about football players, right?
Well, some of them.
Well, don't you have to be a football player or ex-football player to be in the NFL? I mean, maybe a referee or a coach or somebody being paid by the NFL.
Oh, the National Felony League is about committing felonies and getting away with them. It's not about playing football.
What?
Yeah, it's a group of convicted felons. Some of them have misdemeanors, too. I mean, that's generally how they start.
This is ridiculous.
Of course it is. Do you think I'd ever get a normal job after the sex robots the men got stuck in?
Well, a normal job like what?
I don't know, maybe washing dishes at Dupar's?
You just heard it from Cindy D, the most famous English-speaking phone sex operator in the world. She goes to work for the NFL, and it turns out not to be the football league, but the National Felony League. You hear it all on the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber, and if you have a real employment case, I would like to hear from you at 877-525-0700. Don't be telling me the NFL is the National Felony League. Tell me about a real job you got fired from. Tell me about a real situation where you're being sexually harassed and it cost you, it cost you your emotional state, everything. 877-525-0700 during the week. 877-525-0700 for a real labor lawyer, one that's going to fight for you and make the adverse witnesses sound as ridiculous when they testify as the guests I have on this show that are referred by Remus Helms. So I hope you are streaming live on YouTube, by the way, if you're not listening, or you can go to YouTube on the Karl Gerber with a K channel and catch up, because you got to find out about all this crazy stuff we're talking about, it all kind of relates. So what I'm going to do next, people, this isn't easy, guys. It's been a long time since I stood up and given such a long comedy set. The last time was when I was in high school, and I barely went to high school, so, well, maybe I did some of that stand-up stuff in college, too. I've done lots of closing arguments in court. The only thing is there is more to summarize if you've been questioning witnesses for days. The other side's been asking stupid questions, and there are all sorts of exhibits blown up all over the men's room and the women's room and the courthouse, the cafeteria, in that incredibly long metal detector, too. You see the blow-ups in the exhibits, but I'm gonna try. I gotta give you a closing argument, so let me think. Actually, when we return, I'm going to give you the closing argument of what Cindy D said. That's what we're going to do. So I want you to think about it, because a closing argument is supposed to summarize the evidence we just heard from Cindy D, and it can't misstate the evidence. And I can't refer to myself personally. I can't personalize it either. And I can't try to instruct you on what the law should be, but I can reference those legal instructions that the judge was supposed to give us, but she's not on this show. So you're going to hear a closing argument about the National Felony League and Cindy D, a phone sex operator. So this is going to be a good one, and it's going to be in the spirit of stand-up comedy, because this show has got something to do with employment law, because I really am a workplace lawyer, but we have comedians on the show, and I do some comedy, and what we talk about is crazy, over-the-top, scripted stuff every single week on KABC 790. Yeah, so we're going to hear all about the National Felony League that is not the NFL. And I hope I'm not offending any football players out there. This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC, and I am Karl Gerber.
I'm a lawyer and I know it.
Talk Radio 790 KABC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show, and I was really hoping that whole Cindy D thing, well, I'm hoping it has sparked you to listen up, get your vitamins, and hear my closing argument about that whole National Felony League, that is, NFL. So here it goes. People of the jury, the evidence has shown that Cindy D had no idea she would be working for an organization that profits off a bunch of convicted felons. Had she known somewhere between 22 and 38% of the league had been convicted as something, she never would have taken the job. Now, it might be hard to believe, but all this time she thought NFL stood for the National Football League, when in fact it stood for the National Felony League. Here are the breakdowns we learned in this case. The team in Denver, the most number of players arrested. It's not for you to decide if that happened due to marijuana being illegal so long there. That isn't the issue in the case. The Minnesota team, the second highest incident of players' arrests. The only evidence we heard was 4 of those arrests were for, quote, other. We don't know what they were for. The judge read you an instruction that you cannot speculate on matters. It would be speculating to assume all of those, quote, other arrests were for fishing violations in Minnesota. We know there were 8 assault and battery arrests for that team in the sampled playing year. 5 gun arrests. I'm not making this up. None of that was about catching north pike and bass fish in Minnesota. Houston, the least number of arrests. Like, what's keeping the crime rate so low on that team? We've heard it's the whole lack of zoning in Houston. Yes, that could be it. Neuromassage clinics next to nursery schools. It's more likely than not. They were increased feelings of goodwill between wives and pixie-sized girlfriends because those players volunteered to do nursery school drop-off. I'm just saying. Sorry. No personalization for this closing argument. Forget you heard that. Let us repeat some of the statistics we heard in this 11-week trial over the 4 days of employment law of the plaintiff. The highest number of arrests in the National Felony League are for DUIs. Domestic violence comes in at 3. But is that really a surprise? And next up, naturally, assault. Adam Jones, a $16 million a year player, leads the arrest records for major players. He've even got a gun charge. Who's that man in the back of the courtroom pointing at me? Did the other side say mistrial? Your Honor, after all we've heard over these 11 weeks, do you really want to do this again on account of one single NFL player pointing a gun at one of the lawyers? Oh, come on. There are harsher crimes we've heard about. Oh, okay, thanks, Your Honor, for letting that go. Yes, that player did apologize. It's all a wash now. Moving right along. The evidence further showed the highest arrest rates are amongst what they call wide receivers. These are not slender receivers. They are wide. We haven't heard evidence on the average size of their waists, so do not speculate. But those pants the player took off during direct exam when he attempted to do that that thing with his genital against the court reporter, those pants where the court took judicial notice of, they're large enough for 3 court reporters to fit in. Yes, 3 court reporters in one wide receiver's pants. You can understand a wide receiver must be 3 times as big as your average female court reporter. You saw her. You can judge whether what he did was proper. The judge was, he's admonished you that just because that wide receiver was carried away in handcuffs, that shouldn't jaundice your impression of the employer's position. The lowest incident of arrests appeared amongst defensive tacklers. Notwithstanding these figures only being 56% of the arrests the wide receivers scored, they include lots of fun and exciting things like gun assaults, gun things like accused of carrying a concealed weapon in a water park in Ohio, leading to intense encounter with a police at a water park. What does that say to you? Endangerment of children. Another one of those defensive tacklers. He was accused or suspected of stealing a golf cart, driving drunk and resisting arrest in Scottsdale, Arizona. Stealing a golf cart? There's a word for that, and it's pathetic. Especially when we've got evidence of arrests amongst these players for burglary, cruelty to an animal, trespassing, lots of DUIs, enough to make mad. Also, a sexual abuse of a restaurant worker. Given the foregoing, plaintiff Cindy D, the judge has allowed us to call her simply Cindy D due to the ever-changing spelling and pronunciation of her name, which is never easy to spell or pronounce. Well, plaintiff Cindy D respectfully asks that you award her $1 million for each of the 4 days she suffered working for what we've heard is referred to by the acronym National Felony League, or NFL for short. Yes, the next time you're watching those guys running around on the field tackling each other in those cute costumes with butt padding, just be aware that one went out for some domestic violence. That other guy had intense encounter with officers at a water park. That dude got popped for drugs, and all the rest of them on that field, they're scheming to do something really, really bad. Maybe even kill their estranged wife and get away with it. Listeners, thank you for listening. For my proposed closing argument, the statistics and facts were accurate. I am a real football fan. I think the last game I went to was maybe back in 98. It was the USC-UCLA game. And I said all those not so flattering things, even though I'm such a big fan. I mean, I don't watch football or I don't do any betting. I'm certainly not a fan of all those crimes and misdemeanors. Actually, I'm not sure how many of those are misdemeanors we just talked about. But hey, if they can't find work anywhere else, at least there's the National Felony League for all those guys. All right, so this is Karl Gerber. I'm a real workplace lawyer, and last week I was doing a rowing demonstration in the pool when a bunch of Cub Scouts asked me how I like being an employment lawyer. I said, it's pretty righteous, bros. You can stand in the courthouse bathroom, one hand on the briefcase, next to your opponent who thinks it's going to be some special boys club in there at their men's room. And you sort of turn to the jerk and then you say, sorry, bro, that was some bad aim. Yeah, there's some super neat special stuff you could do to piss off your courtroom adversary. This is the city. There are 47 state courthouses throughout the county of Los Angeles, and I have only misaimed at my opponents in several of the men's rooms of the Los Angeles Superior Court. I'm no fool. I can properly aim at a urinal, but there are times when doing so is unwise, at least to my mental health, particularly due to the cockiness of an opponent, a recent character attack on my client, or even the judge's ruling. And even more so, I'm not fool enough to file an employment lawsuit in Los Angeles Superior Court other than the main courthouse. That's the Stanley Moss Courthouse. That's right. The Stanley Moss, he was a fine jurist who went to my very law school. He even made the Supremes. I don't mean the musical band, but the California Supreme Court. My mother also tells me he was a founding member of Temple Beth Hallel, formerly in what was called North Hollywood, California, but in a section such rebranded as Valley Village, as if being in North Hollywood was a really nasty thing. Or was it just the proximity of North Hollywood to Sun Valley, where the most important man of Sun Valley made his fortune when his genital got infringed and he got $200.1 million and I didn't represent me? Excuse me, allow me to make a sponsorship plug. This program is made possible through a generous grant from the Helms Foundation's $5.14 billion in funding and 14 inches of endowment. Well, I can be reached, not tonight, but tomorrow, at the office at 877-525-0700 if you're sitting there shaking in your seat if you were fired. Yeah, on all days, Friday the 13th. 877-525-0700 if you're vomiting profusely all over your daughter's boyfriend. Not because you got another beer belly tattoo that wiggles when he giggles, but because you're itching, wondering, and not sleeping because you don't know if you should quit your job because your employer is engaging in some fraudulent scheme selling used, spent, and recycled condoms to some subterranean waterproofing company. This is a real number, and I'm really an employee lawyer. 877-525-0700. If you got a bunch of cactus needles stuck in your behind when you were naked hang gliding like poor old Slick Willie we heard about on the last show when he got affected and died of that bum injuries. But so Is anyone out there listening? This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC, and I'm Karl Gerber. I'm not always a pissed-off employment lawyer, but I think you know what might happen if I might get pissed off. So I want to leave you with this important legal tidbit. A single PAGA, that is Private Attorney General penalty under the Labor Code, Section 558, may not be split so as to require representative employees to arbitrate that aspect of the case. This has been the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show, the worst program on the radio.
Goodell still the prison warden. Will he ever free Josh Gordon?
This show furnished by Karl Gerber and Employment Lawyers Group.